What's up, guys? It's Oliver, and welcome back to another banger episode of This Dude Started Something. Thank you so much for sitting through our first few ads.
Hey, it's Braden, and yes, we did add advertisements, but between me and you guys, you can skip them if you just hit the fast forward button a couple times.
Today's guest is one of the kindest, most driven people we've ever had on the show. He's the founder of 40 Love, a nonprofit built directly to support people experiencing homelessness.
Using tennis, pickleball, and other community events to raise money, awareness, and hope. And he's also on track to become a doctor.
From launching a grassroots movement in high school to hosting events across the country and presenting research at Stanford, Sean is the real deal.
We're hyped to be heading to his next event in NYC this week. And if you're listening and want to come through, hit the RSVP link in the description.
How are you doing, Sean?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on, Oliver.
Of course, happy to have you here. So tell us and our viewers a little bit more about 40 Love.
Yeah, so 40 Love is a nonprofit. I started back in 2017, about 8 years ago. I've been fortunate enough to oversee and manage its growth over the years. Ever so thanks to its members and our supportive community. We started only with your bare bones flyer, some balls, and a tennis racket, and only a couple of participants. And we've grown. Now expanding nationwide, we're hosting our
Wow,
next event in New York City.
that's awesome.
That's
Yeah, me and
crazy.
Brandon are going to be pulling up to the next event. And listeners, if you are in New York City, August 10th.
Flyers gonna be on the socials. Also, we're
Flyers
gonna be we're gonna be vlogging a lot of this event too. Um, I'm super excited. It's pickleball, right?
Yep.
Okay, good. I'll bring my racket then, right? Or my paddle.
You don't have to; it'll be provided. Or you can
Paddles
if you want.
provided? Oh my
Paddles
goodness,
and balls
bro.
provided. Yes.
Yeah, you guys heard it here. Paddles and balls
Thanks,
provided.
bro.
Pull up August 10th. It's gonna be crazy, man. Man, I have a lot of questions. So you started this foundation. We've never really talked to anybody on this podcast of like foundation starters, and so it's a very different form of. I don't even know. I mean, it's kind of like a business because you got to market it, But
Nonprofit
it's a
business. Yeah.
nonprofit. Yeah, it's nonprofit. It's a lot different. And I guess I want to know, how do you even start one of these things?
Yeah. So, honestly, at like what 15, 16 years old, I was like, what am I even doing? Is this gonna
Yeah.
be
Mhm.
something at all, right? So, not a lot of people believed in it, which not to my surprise, right? But kind of like this trial and error of what really worked for me, what didn't, and things that I didn't, I stopped doing. But with the kind of getting people and the community behind it is you kind of have to identify a problem in society, right, and then come up with a creative way for people to get out there. And then especially with pickleball or tennis, is the barrier for entry at least is lower, and you can really get all types of players, from adults to younger kids to people who've never touched a racket or been in the court before. You see
Yeah.
all sorts of players. And then the more logistic side of figuring out what a nonprofit is really there's a lot of paperwork, obviously, but going
Hmm.
through all of that, getting the insurance when you're doing the fundraisers and stuff, just to make sure everybody's covered, and then identifying what kind of beneficiaries there are in terms of homeless charities and stuff. So we are a tax free. We're a 501(c)(3). So yeah, you can kind of think of it as a business, but I guess obviously the difference is there's all the profits go back into the organization and to our events instead of taking in for profit.
So you guys essentially put on these events. Is pickleball like your most popular event that you do? I know you do tennis as well, right?
Yeah, so we started out as tennis. We've always considered other events, but I think maybe pickleball, when it really exploded around maybe 2021, 2022, is when we
Yeah, it went
started
crazy.
seeing the shit, right, like the shift.
Yeah.
So we got a lot of messages saying like, hey, like, can we do pickleball, instead of tennis?
Yeah.
And we still keep tennis, but for the short term future, we've seen pickleball pick up a lot of growth, and we've been very successful with all our pickleball tournaments.
Dude, pickleball is so interesting. It's got to be one of the only sports that young and old can play. I'm talking old. Like I'm like 90 years old. People are out there hitting bangers, man. So I think that's a good business move. You're going to get a lot more people coming to your events and therefore making more, raising more money. So I have a question. So basically you put on these events, people pay to come to the events, and then you just send the money yourself to these different organizations that help out homeless people. Is that like the beneficiaries?
Yeah, so our first charity that we fundraised for was Uplift Organization, which is they're a mobile outreach program in Kansas City, and they drive these trucks out in the evenings, 3 days a week, and deliver like, food, clothes, medicine, and then blankets in the winter. Your winter clothes, free of charge, and they don't discriminate based off of sex, gender, religious orientation. So that's kind of why we chose it as our initial organization to
For sure.
collaborate with, and then from then on, as we started branching out to other regions in the country, we're trying to identify more charities that share the same values. So, in New York City, for example, we've identified some, and we're taking a vote later tonight to see how many um, charities really share that same mission. And then, yeah, a lot of the funds that we get from the our events are going towards those charities. And then we try to minimize a lot of the costs, thanks to some of these venues. Hell's Kitchen Pickleball is generous enough to donate the courts free of charge, and yeah, and then they're
Wow.
providing. Yeah, so it's very very
That's very,
fortunate
very nice.
Wait,
Yeah.
they
us.
don't
Yeah,
they don't
very.
film Hell's Kitchen there, right? I was wondering that. Like they don't film that.
So no, so Hell's Kitchen is very near. It's like I think only like a couple blocks down from the pickleball site.
Mhm.
But no, it's a different venue. So not Hell's Kitchen wasn't filmed there.
Oh, okay.
But it's on the
Gotcha.
seventh floor. And the venue looks amazing. Normally, the membership costs almost I think upwards of like 3,000 for the year or something like that. So
Wow.
we're very
Holy
fortunate. And yeah, they're
smokes,
very
dude.
generous. So yeah, so we try to minimize our costs as much as possible with venues like them, and then so we can send as much of the funding to the charities itself, and then obviously with our other forms of marketing, like our merchandise, we have 40 Love water bottles, and we're redesigning our T-shirts. So those are kind of some ways that people have contributed to
Yeah.
the cause.
Yeah, Sean, I bought a water bottle like 7 years ago, and I still have it. It's pretty cool. It's a
Yes, yep,
big
yep.
orange water bottle. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we still got those same ones. We
Dang.
have a green and orange one.
Yeah.
The original donor, man. That's tough. Um,
Yep, yep. Oliver's a 40 Love fan from the beginning. He's a true
Yeah.
fan.
for
Yeah.
sure, dude. So Sean, did you go and talk to the owners of that Hell's Kitchen venue yourself, or how did you get them to donate that venue for free?
Great question.
Yeah, great question, because I didn't talk to like Gordon Ramsay or anything. I mean, hopefully, if we come into contact with him sooner or later, but um, we kind of fell into kind of one of their email streams, and then we reached out, like asking for like a collab. So we first started out with kind of your Parks and Rec in New York, and they recommended some venues that were more receptive to nonprofits, and one of them being Hell's Kitchen. So at first I was like, they're not going to respond or anything, but my surprise, like they did. In due time, it wasn't like one day and they responded. I think it took some time, but they came around, and a couple other meetings, and yeah, we just had to abide by some of the rules. So no outside food or water, and that's a little different from our events. This one's a little more tight, more regulated. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and then yeah, we worked it out, all the logistics. So we just got approval.
Dang.
I think today was we're all set for the advertising. So yeah,
Awesome.
we got our event in 2 weeks.
Wow, dude.
So you said you're meeting with um, other members of 40 Love tonight. I looked on your website. It seems like you guys have a massive team, lots of ambassadors, lots of people behind you. Tell us what that's like. How many people there are working for 40 Love or working with 40 Love, and kind of how you manage them while also doing school and so many other things.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I mean, 40 Love's growth is I mentioned it initially is thanks to everybody involved, because in the beginning it was kind of me kind of not knowing what I was doing and navigating through all the weeds and sorting it out. But as the organization grows, and with anything, right, you can't do everything yourself, and especially like you said with medical school, it started to get really hard. And the question is like, how do I do this? And I kind of learned what that comes with delegation and management is
Mm-hmm.
kind of inspiring that next generation, people even younger than I was, to take some of the tasks and learn and keep growing the organization. So we have a lot of great ambassadors. So for this one, we used our NYU and Columbia ambassadors. Our NYU peeps headed this one up. So they're really passionate about kind of helping those that are underserved. But I wanted to provide them this guidance, the safety, kind of the safety net and breaks that I didn't have when I was starting out, right? Because when I was starting out, I didn't even know if it was going to come to fruition, and I was just doing things randomly. But with them being an ambassador for 40 Love, I kind of worked with them through how do you manage an event? How do we set up, volunteering and try to advertise? And how do we do more research into the social determinants of health and how it affects homelessness? So we're making sure that their motivation is directly tied to some of the results, so that their efforts aren't wasted. Because obviously they're already busy with school, and we want to make sure that
That's smart.
these young minds that they get their results of what they want. So it's kind of like a safety net here. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
amazing to work with such young, talented people, and it really keeps me going as well.
That's
Dude, that's
awesome.
amazing,
Sean, you're
man.
so nice, man. Such a nice guy.
Dude, legend, bro. So, um, what field of medical are you going into? And like, how much school do you have left?
Yeah, so I have I have a little less than a year. So I find out what specialty, or if I, it's called this thing called like match. So I'm going in the 2026 matches is next year when I'll officially get my MD. And then I'm going
Sounds like the
into,
draft or something, dude. Like,
I know it's
they
like the
draft you like
drafts
number
for,
one pick and
medicine,
stuff.
which is
Bro,
weird. You get
he's
this
first
envelope.
rounded.
I
For
know,
sure.
you get this envelope, they call your name, and then you open it, and you're like, oh, this is where I'm at. So, I'll be in New York City doing like a sub internship at, Columbia, right? But I don't even know if I'm going to be in New York or somewhere else. So,
Dang. It's
yeah, I
like
mean, I'll
St.
find out
Luke's
on that
East
day.
drafts Sean Nguyen. Like, crazy.
Yeah, I know. It's
That's
exactly like the
crazy.
draft, honestly. Yeah. First
Wow.
pick, or yeah,
So,
hopefully I'm
so
first pick.
where's your top pick that you would want to go to,
My top pick? Oh, I mean,
just in case they're
gee, that's
listening?
yeah, that's a great question. But I mean, with family being originally from the Bay Area, I mean, I just rotated at Stanford, so fresh off my mind, they're definitely up there. I want to shout them and their department out, but Columbia's definitely up there. I love the city of New York, but yeah, kind of like this ordeal of not wanting to, count my eggs before they hatch.
Yeah,
But I gotta
yeah.
see, interviews if they are able to interview me too, because that's when the rank lists and everything finalizes. But yeah, I mean, both New York, Bay Area, Chicago's a I think those three are definitely top for me: Chicago, Bay,
Gotcha.
and NYC is
Well, you have some
lots of
great options there.
opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is it? Yeah, yeah, yep,
So are you familiar with Andrew Huberman? You
yeah.
know who
Of
that
course,
is?
yeah, yeah, yep.
He
He
I
works
believe
at the
he
Stanford lab. Yeah,
Stanford. Yeah.
yep.
Dude, that's crazy, man. I listen to his podcast every day.
My dad
Every
is a
day, dude.
big fan of Andrew Huberman.
Dude, that's sick, man. So,
Yeah,
bro, we
very
should talk,
familiar.
we should talk about like we should get into the science of I don't know, like foundations somehow. Or I mean, we could even go into like what the homeless people have to go through, and I'm sure you're very educated
Yeah.
on that. And we could even talk about like the people you're helping with your foundation. I mean, it's terrible. Like I feel like everybody's seen a homeless person anytime we go to the city, and it's just like we're trained to ignore them, and we don't really even think about what they're going through. So I would love to hear your takes on all of that, which we can get into later. I don't know. For now, Oliver, where should we go next with this? I mean, we could go so many routes.
Well, congrats on finishing up at Stanford.
Yeah, first and
You
foremost.
also co-wrote a paper there, right?
Oh yes, yes. One is on where I'm on the Stanford lifestyle medicine team. One of the sports medicine physicians, uh, directors, was founding kind of the lifestyle medicine brand here at Stanford. So yeah, very fortunate to be
That's
kind of
sick.
one of the researchers. So yes.
Yeah.
Wow, dude.
Well, speaking of research, you have a research area on your website, and I know you guys do some of your own research. Who's kind of behind that, and what are you guys researching?
Yeah. So on the 40 Love side, research is kind of a thing we're keeping in the back burner, but we're still working on it in terms of social determinants of health. Um, we presented recently at a conference. It's called the Humanitarian Health Conference in Kansas City. I think it was around 2 months ago. And a lot of our research had to do with um, how kind of this medical debt functions into leading to different types of healthcare disparities and ultimately homelessness. So that was a lot of what our research was centered on, and then we kind of explored, how do people kind of sort of become homeless in the first place,
Uh-huh.
and obviously things like drug use and obviously there's social factors, how people were born into it, or some people fell into it with the whole economy, etc. But kind of seeing that and doing sort of the uh, advocacy effect too behind it is in terms of either lobbying or pushing bills. I'm a delegate on the American Medical Association. A lot of bills we see kind of get pushed on there, and we debate it and see what happens. But yeah, that's kind of what our research is
Dang.
on.
Bro, you just keep whipping out like
I'm on this.
more
I'm on this.
credentials, bro.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's crazy,
No,
man.
no, no. It just says no. It's cool because like they're the governing body of like a lot of. They're kind of like the main governing body behind in the medical field behind some of the decisions that Congress makes, and kind of after World War II ended, um, kind of how the U.S. healthcare system was shaped up. The main governing body behind that was the AMA. So yeah, I mean, I'm only a small factor. I'm not like the main guy or anything. Definitely, I'm only like a
Yeah.
tiny speck. So, but yeah, just mainly like a learner. So definitely not up there by any means.
Does the AMA do their own research, or are they primarily just like I don't know. I might be getting my organizations mixed up. I know there's like a American association that does a lot of research on stuff that you're talking about. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah. So good question. So not a lot of people are familiar with the AMA. So the AMA it's basically Congress, but for the medical field. So all of
Oh,
the
okay.
bills, any controversial hot topics you can think of. The AMA does have a lot of backing and funding in that regard to
Yeah.
delegate their works towards, or if obviously if the bill we majority of its members vote no, then they won't touch it, right? But
Yeah.
it's sort of think of it as the government for in the medical field.
Okay.
And how do they make their decisions? Are they looking at like current research from people inside of the organization, or to, you know what I mean? Like, how
Yeah,
do they
I mean,
decide, oh, let's pass this bill? You know, are they looking at research from you guys or what?
right. Yeah. I mean, my answer to that is I mean, I sure hope so. Because
Yeah.
a lot of, it's that's the controversy behind it. We're seeing it, now more than ever. Every year the meetings in Chicago, like the big one, the annual conference, and supposedly all the delegates from all the states, right, and all the medical
Hmm.
schools go in. Doctors, residents, medical students are kind of the next up in line. They have a say, but not as much.
Okay.
And then it's exactly how Parliament works. So a bill, you move to previous question for voting. You need a second. You vote on it. There are pros and cons speeches. You can vote to
Hmm.
table it, etc. All the
Uh-huh.
things that Congress does, and so yeah. So you need majority vote to pass it on, and you can do amendments, etc. And then there's a whole process of drafting the bill beforehand and getting it to the table in the first place. So yeah, so that's kind of how it works. Just think of it kind of like how Congress does it. But yeah, they
Yeah.
rely on research from contemporary issues to their own, because these are physicians in their respective fields. So you'll have surgeons, cardiologists, right, orthopedic surgeons, rehab doctors, it. So all of them with their knowledge in their respective fields coming together. So yeah, you'll hopefully, I mean, to answer your question directly, hopefully, I hope it's governed by research. But
Oh yeah.
it's
I
just
hope
like
so too.
Congress. There's controversy. So
True. Huh.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting.
Could you like give us an example of an area where, like you're saying, health would directly influence homelessness?
in the AMA.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, some of the bills that the AMA that's been brought up is like creating, let's say, more affordable housing versus, the free market, right? And then
Mm.
looking at, controlling. We don't. The AMA doesn't really have a say on the minimum wage, obviously, right? But
Uh-huh.
they, in terms of creating or balancing between how much they want to step in to create more affordable housing and
I see.
um, creating these barriers for these Medicare plans and et cetera, right? So I mean, the number one cause of debt is actually medical debt. So
Wow.
some of these kind of how do I say it, like things that people rely on, like the floor, for where what qualifies as low income, and what kind of like Medicare Part A, B, C, D, Medicaid, right? So kind of some of those issues determine who gets it and who doesn't, and then yeah, that those are kind of the things that where it interplay. So it's frightening that medical debt is the number one cause of debt in this country.
Yeah.
Oh
And
yeah,
then,
that's just
you guys
scary.
obviously know how much we spend on healthcare in this
Yeah.
country
Yeah.
versus other countries. So
Yeah.
Well, it's just scary because it's like being injured or I don't know, diagnosed with something is already, I can imagine, very scary, you know? So, and then people are thinking, oh man, it's going to cost so much. And then they're like not going to the doctor or whatever. For, I don't know, there's probably so many reasons. But I heard you mention that a lot of homeless people end up going to debt out of, medical expenses. Do you know the numbers? How many homeless people really end up where they are because of that? Like, do you, off the top of your head?
I
I
mean,
guess I could probably just look it up, honestly.
Yeah.
are you talking about like nationwide? I'm guessing.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, I'm just trying to figure out like what's the root cause? What's the average homeless person? How did they get there? You know what I mean? I'm sure there's billions or millions of stories, but it's like I don't know. I feel like medical expenses could be a top reason. You know?
Yeah, it definitely could be a top. From our like understanding and from my understanding is there's not a lot of literature out there that really ties you into one specific reason. There's one website will say one thing and the other will say another thing, but it's definitely
Yeah.
a multitude some people don't disclose that they were raised or came from a less fortunate circumstance. Drug use is a big reason for that. So I guess you
Yeah.
could group that in the medical, and then yeah, obviously medical issues, ER visits in this country can be extremely expensive. But off the top of my head, I don't. I unfortunately that's something we're still trying to figure out. How do these
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
get there?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, very very unfortunate. But yeah, definitely more research needs to be into that.
And do you know where we stand with other countries on homelessness in America? Are we higher, lower, pretty similar, or what?
I I will say this without making it too controversial is for our place in the world in terms of being a world leader and
Yeah.
maintaining hegemony, right? I will say our social issues, our prioritization of social issues that we have currently is not very good. I will say that comparatively.
Yeah.
I think for where we are and where we're trying to be in contrast to the rest of the world, our focus on domestic issues here at hand, homeless veterans,
Yeah.
affordability, housing crisis, is not up to par with where our goals and our alignment should be. I'll say that.
Completely fair. Yes. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Um, I kind of want to dive into just homelessness. I mean, obviously you know a ton about it, and I feel like we should educate people about it. Does your average homeless person, like, do they have? I mean, is it hard to identify these people? I mean, I don't know. That might be a stupid question, but it's like, I don't know. It's like, what do they actually have? You know, it's like they can't really have like a license, probably. I don't know. Maybe they can. I don't know. It probably depends on the situation, but
Yeah, no, great question. So, I mean, the definition of unhoused slash homelessness is without a house, right? So it's so
yeah,
difficult to say like who doesn't and who does just by looking at them. Let's say like
yeah,
2 p.m. on a Sunday, you're walking around, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference unless their appearance is looks as such, right?
yeah,
And that's kind of the reason. I mean, it's so hard to identify them, and that's sort of the reason we don't know like what really causes it, right? But
mm-hmm,
in terms of from my work and my experience, homeless or unhoused individuals, they tend to gather in kind of sort of these camps with each other, right? From just
right,
using the limited resources they have, just for warmth, connection, resources. If one that you'll see probably you've probably seen it before, shopping carts, right?
Yeah.
yeah,
From grocery stores, serving as kind of the kind of a roof of a house, right? So you'll see a lot of them as when I was doing volunteering and seeing from my work with 40 Love is there's designated sites and camps that they'll usually be at. So that's
yeah,
when you can kind of sort of make the the markings, right? Usually most of them are around here, but obviously in a different city in like NYC, there's uh, obviously more with a bigger population. But yeah, I mean,
right,
every city, it's so hard to see
Yeah.
where they are, and you just have the more work you do in it, the more you volunteer and kind of go around is kind of where you get your bearings. But yeah,
Mhm.
it's
yeah,
very difficult to tell. I will say this from speaking on behalf of the org itself uh, and our work is our goal is to drive down the number and improve their quality of life for
yeah,
whoever there is that is already homeless, right? Obviously, in a perfect world, we'd like to see zero. But as of the status quo, the number is only increasing. Unfortunately, with the current affordability of housing and daily things, right? That number is only going to get worse. But our main goal is to improve quality of life and comfort as much as possible with our homeless population wherever we serve, and to try to decrease and minimize that number as much as possible. Now, whether it's through affordable housing slash putting more jobs back into the economy, I've we've we've done our research on a lot of the topics. Ultimately, I don't want to say anything on behalf of the organization, but I'll say that our goal is to support whatever improves their lives the most.
Yeah, that's a great way
As
to put
well.
it.
Yeah. And we've talked a lot of becoming homeless, kind of what contributes to that. But really, wouldn't you say one of the biggest issues is remaining homeless? It's so hard to get out of that hole. Do
Yeah,
you
and get
think
a
there's,
job and
yeah,
stuff. It's
like,
like,
do you think there's enough organizations that are open to hiring homeless people, or do you think we need more of those?
Yeah, I think for in terms of job barrier for entry, I feel like there needs to be. I feel like there should be more jobs for them
yeah,
in terms of you can't expect them to be wearing like suit and tie, having all
Right.
these
yeah,
credentials,
exactly. Yeah,
graduating from Harvard or etc., right? But they're not to say that those jobs are the leftovers, not to say that, but that everyone serves their place in society, right? And we you know me as a future physician is no more than they are as all these jobs that we may need, whether it be custodian, server, worker, kind of behind the scenes. I'm more front facing, I guess, because I deal with patients. But not to say that I'm more important, but I do think there should be more jobs for them to be able to work their way back, right?
Right.
To come back and serve their place in society and be able to afford a living, right? Whether it's minimum wage or enough to feed, clothe themselves. Now, whether they're able to afford it with that job is different. That's kind of an economic problem, right? But being able to contribute to society without these markings and barriers and credentials, I think
yeah,
is one thing that needs to be improved. And
Yeah.
and that's a whole
for
nother
sure.
topic, right? Like the value of a college degree, et cetera. Not
Yeah,
and not to dive into that, 'cause that's a whole other topic.
right.
But I will say on behalf of my work with 40 Love is there needs to be more opportunities for them. Just because they're homeless does not mean they're useless.
Yes.
That
Yeah,
those two things do not equate.
yeah.
So, would you agree that that is the biggest problem is of getting out, or do you think like people start drugs? Like, what is the hardest obstacle of getting out of homelessness?
I mean, that's a loaded question, but very, very important. Obviously, I haven't been homeless myself, so I don't want to speak on behalf of them. My dad used to be homeless, and for him, it was, how his situation came about. He, was a resistance fighter for South Vietnam in the war, imprisoned, tortured, came over here, escaped, homeless for several years. He always had the motivation. So I mean, with some help, little support, he eventually worked his way back. Doesn't really have your formal 4-year degree like we mentioned earlier on that topic. But yeah, he with him it was the lack of opportunities, which you can cite as one of them, but obviously he didn't. He wasn't someone that had substance abuse disorder, but that's also another big one. We've seen it, especially in Kansas City, the opioid crisis and
Mm.
such other illicit drug use is a very big contributor to homelessness, and like not only initiating that, but maintaining, staying in
Yeah.
that state. Yeah, so
Wow.
that's another big driver. Lack of housing is another thing. A lot of empty warehouses are actually not being used. Like no one's they're abandoned, not really living in them. So that's another thing. Like could we rebuild them, or but obviously that costs more money, right? So
Mm.
it's this checks and balances of where do we want to take it, and
Yeah.
with 40 Love, it's we're trying to get them there, and whether kind of the politics and the economy, we get them to a certain point, and then unfortunately from that point, the economy and this current social situation takes over,
Yeah.
unfortunately. And as someone that's an advocate for them, and Oliver, you've been supporting us for a while, is it sucks because you have to fight two battles, right?
Yeah.
You got to get them well enough and provide them enough opportunities. They have to be there, and then from there on, can they be able to sustain themselves in the current economy? And are they able to find housing with the limited amount of housing that we have?
Wow, dude. That story about your dad is
I
crazy,
know.
man. That is crazy, dude. And I mean, if he didn't make it, I mean, just think about by him making it out of homelessness, you know, without that, you might have not started that, this foundation, and countless lives wouldn't have been helped out, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I've heard, and I couldn't tell you where I heard this from, but I heard that even after like 3 days of somebody being homeless, I think there was some sort of study where they put out just regular people out on the street, and they became like, they just like, it almost seemed like they were on drugs, but they weren't doing drugs because of just like the physical toll that it takes on your body of being homeless. People were kind of like,
Yeah, like the
losing
mental
it.
state. Yeah.
Yeah, the mental state. So it's not like always even like the drugs,
Yeah.
but just the physical toll, the mental toll, because you're not able
And
to
the
like
lack of
socialize.
community. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that also has an impact, I think. I don't know where I heard that, but even just like 3 days after being on the streets, nowhere else to go, people were feeling these effects, which, I mean, like I said, I can't tell you, I can't cite that, but it is just interesting to think about,
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. As much as it is people think it's physical, it's also mental too. I remember my dad always saying like, people look at you differently on the streets. Let's say like, us three, if we were to walk onto the street, let's say go to a grocery store, Target, whatever, people would, not really notice us or, just look and, it's whatever, right? But if you were homeless and you're walking around, like my dad, he said people look at you very differently, like as inferior. Normally two people are just walking like this, right? It's kind of like, they kind of, avoid you, right? To
Yeah.
protect
yeah.
their loved ones and make sure, because they're afraid you're gonna do something to them. But obviously my dad's like, I'm just hungry. I'm not, I'm not trying to do something to you. So
Dude,
it's
your dad's
definitely
the
mental.
coolest guy I've ever met. Like, I still remember like talking to him, dude. And he's so smart too. Dude, he's so cool. We got to get him on the
Yeah.
podcast sometime, bro.
Dude,
Yeah,
that'd be
100%.
awesome.
Yes. We got to get him on the podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's smarter than he's very, very smart.
He's
Way
very
smarter
smart.
than I am. I'll say that. Um,
Wow,
but
that's saying something, dude.
yeah, no. Yeah, but for sure. Yeah, no, definitely smarter than me. Yeah. I don't say that, I don't say that willy-nilly, but he mentioned, the social aspect, people view you as, the breadcrumbs of society. And then obviously when you're that, no one's gonna, help you. They're just gonna try not to be harmed by you. And you can't go to the grocery store without people, security looking at it, like waiting for you to do something or trying to find reasons to kick you out. You can't go get a haircut or, shower because obviously you don't have money, but you go in and the whole room like doesn't smell the best, right? Those were his words of what it meant. And in terms of community, like you can't do anything either. You can't rely on anybody. You're by yourself, and it's you in the wild. So it's
Yeah.
really true Darwinism, to put it bluntly,
Yeah.
at its finest. So it's
Yeah,
survival of
that's
the
pretty
fittest.
crazy.
Not everyone makes it. My dad was a fortunate case of someone
Yeah.
that did, but not unfortunately, not everyone makes it. So yeah, I mean, it's as much as it's physical, it's definitely social. Whenever I come up to somebody that doesn't have a house, I always try to greet them the same, treat them with the same amount of respect, as I would talking to anybody else. So yeah, I
Yeah.
hope. I mean, and it's obviously not easy for them, but I hope our interaction, at least. I'm like, if we can correct this, then hopefully it's another effect down the line. Younger generations, they see that, and they're able to change the narrative.
Yeah.
So, what do you do if you? Obviously, it probably depends on a lot of different things, but if there was like a first move to do if you're homeless, what do you do? What's the best thing to do if you find yourself in that situation?
Yeah, so you mean like if I became homeless or I started out homeless?
Oh man, let's just say you became homeless. Yeah.
I became homeless, so I
Yeah.
previously wasn't.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, at different points of life, and obviously it depends on what skill sets you have, right? But universally, easier said than done. I don't want to, speak to anyone that's, homeless and say like, oh, like why didn't you do X, Y, Z? But
Right.
if you gave me a hypothetical, I was in that case, I would use whatever skills I had. Obviously, right now, I mean, I guess I would get a barrier job, for entry. I would try to look as presentable as possible and work kind of your entry level job that didn't require a college degree, and then slowly from there, hopefully have enough of funding from my job to be able to do that. Easier said than done in today's economy. Minimum wage is very hard to live by and be able to afford something, get yourself out of that.
For
And
sure.
obviously, I mean, I don't even know if that's the solution. I haven't been there, and I was like, it's very very tough to get out of a situation like that. But the good thing is, you guys may have seen is the barrier for entry into jobs nowadays that require a 4-year college degree is slowly decreasing, and there people are kind of seeing what is the true value of that. So I mean, it does open the number of doors, but we obviously need more jobs that
Right.
are kind of behind the scenes and for people that don't have a house. So that's kind of my
Yeah.
thing is that I would do. Find your barrier entry job. Try to find a skill set that I'm you know well into. For me, I guess that's coaching tennis, but I mean that's kind of
Yeah.
what I've been doing on the side. But
Yeah.
seeing like what skills do I bring and how do I kind of elevate myself from there and get back into society. So yeah, and
Yeah.
obviously staying away from substances as well.
Yeah.
We're seeing a
For
lot of
sure.
alcohol dependence as well, and drug use.
I have
Yeah.
another point about it is without a home, without a physical address, there's a lot of implications to that. The first being it makes it much harder to open up a bank account, and all
Mm.
jobs pay with bank accounts. Now, no one's paying in cash unless you work
Exactly.
at, you know, a strip
Something in the
club.
yeah.
Yeah. And
And a lot of people can't do that. You know what I mean? I'd imagine that the first few days, maybe week, is crucial. Like you were talking about, Sean. Like, okay, you want to look at your skills and figure out what you can do. I mean, you got to do that probably within. I mean, you can't be homeless for long because then you start to get these
yeah.
effects that we were talking about earlier. So it's like you almost got to act quick. You know, I feel like that's your best bet.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's what my dad kind of he like for him. I mean, he was homeless for a while, and I remember he was saying like during the winter, especially here, I remember doing jumping jacks and falling on the snow because he was so
Oh,
tired. But he had to do it for warmth, right? And
oh man.
yeah, so I mean, yeah, he obviously have unhealed bruises and obviously brain injury from in Vietnamese prison. But so many things and so many factors going against you, and that I wouldn't be the right so much so I wouldn't be the right person to give you a proper answer. But yeah, like having to act fast and having the support, like whether it be someone or if you don't know anybody in the area or at all, is there's kind enough people that walked in my dad's way that were able to spare him a few dollars and few him some clothes. I remember he was saying in when he was homeless, both in the Bay Area and when he was in Missouri, he was kicked out of his dad's house twice. So now that obviously wasn't easy, but yeah, finding people that are able to support you just a little bit for you to keep that hope alive. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that's what did it for him. But I obviously put me in that situation. I might not have made it out of it. So that's a super tricky question for,
Yeah.
us here who, I mean, I presume you guys haven't been homeless either, but
Nah.
same thing with why Uplift has survived the same way, like off of donations only. Like I thought Uplift wouldn't be there without donations, and to be quite blunt, I don't think a lot of homeless people would be around without support from these charities, and
Wow.
that's kind of sort of why 40 Love works to support all these charities, because I know without all of them running and operating, there wouldn't be a lot of homeless people left, not for the right reason, not because they were not homeless anymore. So unfortunately that's the answer, but I mean that it's
Yeah.
super tough.
So I mean, in a
Unless you
way, if
have
we're being optimistic, like the homeless people we see, obviously we don't want to see it, but it's like that means that these charities are, they're working. I mean, there's hope. I mean, there's people out there
yeah.
helping. I think we all should be.
Yeah.
I wonder if maybe like with your dad being in the Vietnamese prison, if that almost gave him some hope when he got here. Like, obviously, if I can't even imagine like being in a Vietnamese prison, dude. But that's like,
he's got to be so strong and like.
oh, it's
but like
just
that
like
feeling of getting to America, like that I had to feel.
right, like there's hope. That's what I'm saying. Like he saw what he could get, right? So it's like, I don't know, man. I don't know. There's hope.
Yeah,
Crazy.
I hope so. I hope there is. I mean, these charities are the only thing we kind of have. It's like kind of the last barrier, right?
Well, it's such a hard issue too. There's no right answer, like you say. I mean, every person's case is different, like your dad's, and I mean, it's a hard answer.
Yeah.
Sean, what's your take on like early on in school when we talk about homelessness, like elementary school, middle school, teachers and everyone would always say to buy them food, give them water bottles, don't just give them cash. What's your thoughts on that?
I will say this. My take on this is you don't get them closest to the source as possible. And that means I agree with that sentiment, get them water so that they don't use it on, drugs or other means, right? But
Right.
I would even go further, get them closest to the source, which means get them the connection they need to be able to get that job, be able to almost afford themselves or get as close to it as possible. And that doesn't mean, buying them a house or anything, right? Obviously, not everybody can do that. But get them the connection they need so that they can suffice on their own is my advice, because obviously everyone's heard the saying, teach a man to fish, he'll be much better off than if he you just give him one, right? So get them as close as where they can be, that they can have a livable job. If that means a shower, if that means a asking them what their skill sets are, I think that's more valuable than just giving here's a $50 bill. I think that's more valuable.
Yeah. Dude, I just thought about this. Like, homeless people, how do they even find out where the shelters are? How do they even find out where they can get help? Like, they don't have phones. Like, they can't just look up address.
Everyone's different. I'm actually gonna look up what the percentage is with phones. See if they have that stat. I don't know.
Yeah, so that's why the camps are so important. You remember, I think, so in the beginning part of the interview, I was saying, every city's different, but you'll see, these camps and barriers where a lot of them, congregate around, and from that is usually how they know where the resources are. Because if it was just one of them by themselves, then they wouldn't be connected.
So they can kind of talk and help each other out. Like,
exactly. And Uplift knows where these are, and they'll drive and they'll stop at each one. So it's kind of, they'll know, where the markings are. So that's the main reason how they know.
And it says 70 to 90% have phones.
Wow.
And also, we did talk to Silas Dean, who helps incarcerated people, once they get out, have access to resources like jobs and housing. I feel like this kind of goes hand in hand.
Definitely does.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to honestly connect you guys, because I wonder, I think you would find that interesting, Sean. He's done a lot of cool stuff, and it was a really interesting interview. I guess that makes sense then. Bro, that's actually wild though. Well, here's the thing though. If 70 to 90% have phones, it's like, do they have providers though? Like they probably don't, right? So
Free
like,
Wi-Fi probably, like, yeah, they go, yeah, I don't know, maybe like a public park Wi-Fi or something.
true, okay,
To be
but
honest, I
yeah,
thought that number was a little low. I knew some of them about. I was thinking half of them have phones from what I've worked with. Some of them have Wi-Fi. Some of them usually like very outdated phones where you can
Uh-huh.
only send, you know, either type or like not your advanced, unlimited data and all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, in terms of the specifics, that I'm not too sure. And I think it differs obviously significantly by area. So
Hmm.
that's tough to say.
Just so for everybody listening, I want to give everybody, like, I guess you could say advice or just a protocol for helping out a homeless person. I know you mentioned like getting them closer to the source of getting help. Give us like a let's say I see a homeless person. Okay, I think all of you said water bottle would be solid. Clothes. I think
Well,
that's something I
also,
might.
yeah, you kind of got to identify who you see, because, like, I don't know, like, the other night I'm walking here in New York City, and, like, you can see people that are tweaking and, like, shooting up in the street. So,
Yeah,
like, I think
yeah.
it definitely like, and then you'll just see people in Central Park that are really just like, they, I mean, they're not on drugs, they're just homeless, they're just sleeping. Um,
hmm
so I think it matters on who it is first.
So in that case, maybe a little bit of money would help out for sure. It definitely would for sure. And clothes. I don't even know why I've never thought about this, but I donate my clothes to like Goodwill sometimes or thrift
Uh-huh.
stores. But it's like you still.
Bro,
I
we
feel like
should
it's
give
still.
merch out. We should give merch
We
out.
should give merch out. I feel like it's still hard for homeless people to access even like the Goodwill or the thrift store. Like, why don't I just go out here, carry some clothes in the back of the car, and
Yeah,
if I see a homeless person, like give them a sweatshirt. You know what I mean? Like
that's a good idea.
that type of stuff. I never even thought about that. And then like you said, the most important thing, get them closer to a helpful source.
Yeah,
Which
like, I love those videos of the contractors that'll, like, ask them if they want to come help at, like, a construction site for a few hours,
oh yeah,
and, like, buys them lunch. Like, dude, those are sick.
yeah. Which I don't know how you would do. Like would they have to sign a waiver or something to do that? I
I
don't
mean,
know.
I'm sure there's legal implications, but, like, I
Yeah.
think they really just want a job. I don't.
Yeah, well, I'm just curious if like yeah, for the person
I mean, yeah, but
hiring
that's
them
just
for the day.
America making it harder.
Yeah, no, yeah, yeah, that is crazy.
Especially with, like, here in New York, like, you can't even work construction unless you're, like, I mean, I don't want to generalize or anything, but it's pretty hard to work construction. You got to be, like, part of the union, and you probably do have to sign a whole bunch of stuff, and
Yeah.
probably is hard.
Yeah, and it's like
Yeah.
how do they even figure out how to do all that, Like if you're homeless, you
Yeah.
don't let's say you
Dude,
don't have a phone.
yeah, like, we wouldn't even know how to do that.
I
We
don't
have,
yeah,
like,
bro.
all
I'd
the
be toast.
access. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
It's
will say
crazy.
this is that I think a lot of the spending that our government does to keep it, least political as possible is I think some of that spending can be diverged into domestic issues like solving homelessness. I think
For
if we
sure.
put that same percentage consistently, I think we would have
Uh-huh.
a significantly less of an epidemic that we do have now.
Or sometimes it's not even like Sean, yes, I completely agree with you, but I I sometimes feel like it's not the actual big ticket number we're seeing that's the problem. Like, we need a
Exactly.
bigger number. It's where that number's going is not,
Exactly. There
yeah,
you
it's
go.
not going to helpful places, like, really
Exactly.
ever. It's going to special interests and a bunch of other
Exactly.
stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
It'd be interesting. Is there like a source or a website where we can see all the numbers like exact or I mean, where our money is, where the US's money is
Yeah,
going?
yeah, there is. I can't tell you like only this website, but if you look it up, you can see like what percentage, right? Like something
Yeah.
like
You can see our
that's why we
debt.
know. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
why we know, the US spends this much on healthcare versus, other
Oh,
countries. Let's say like, Singapore, for example, spends, less than 5% of their GDP on healthcare, and they have one of the best healthcares in the world. Stuff like that,
Singapore
right?
oh
is an
That
man.
awesome place. with awesome people. And
Why can't we just copy that?
well, no, because we can't. No, because not to get into any crazy territory, but people in America are not like people in Singapore. It starts with the
Yeah.
people. You know, it's like Sean says, you know, you gotta teach them to fish. You know, you gotta teach them to be good people. Like people in Singapore, you can leave your laptop in the coffee shop and go run down the street to grab something. Your laptop will still be there. Here,
Man.
probably not. So
Yeah, no.
yeah, I think it starts with the people first, but then yeah, maybe one day we can get there. That would be great.
Wow.
Yeah, I sure hope so. But yes, definitely keep the government accountable for sure. Look up and see, like, you can see how much do we spend on this versus other things. So yeah,
Yeah.
something to keep an eye on. But yeah,
Huh.
it's so important nowadays, and the problem I fear is only getting worse. We've seen it every single year, right? But yeah, I mean, we can only do our part and in helping with this. So, and I appreciate you guys' support as well.
Yeah. Man, well,
Oh yeah.
we appreciate you starting 40 Love, man.
Yeah,
You're,
Yeah.
you're on the front lines.
Dude,
Yes,
yeah.
obviously it's become so fulfilling every time I do it every year, and we're only expanding. We've done more volunteering this past year, and then yeah, thanks to supporters like you, Oliver. So and Braden, you as well when you come up to New York. So we're so excited. I hope that we get a big turnout
Yes, dude.
to our event in New York.
Dude, same, man. Dude, Oliver, you gotta hit up like some Tinder girls and get them up there.
Bro, I texted it in my NYU group chat, and
Really?
some people liked it. So hopefully we'll get them there.
Dude, that's solid, bro. Yeah, like
And
put
we
it in
should
the
film some
bio.
content when Sean gets here, dude. We could buy some merch ahead of time. Although it's like summer, but I mean, we could hand out some new clothes, or we can hand out
Yeah.
water bottles. We could do some stuff.
Yeah, we could get rid of the summer stock, on clearance. We don't have any stock, dude. We just like it's like it sends out when they buy it. But dude, I'm looking forward to talking to you, Sean, in person, man. And we could do like a little
Mini
segment.
pod?
Yeah, mini pods. So, like I know you're probably super busy, but it'd be sick to get you on for like 10 minutes or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dude, it'd be cool to talk to you about like the medical field too at some point. And
We can have him back on in a few years when he's a physician.
that's what I'm thinking, man. That's what I'm thinking. Thank you everybody for listening to this episode of This Dude Started Something. What a guy. What an awesome guy. Wait. Hold on. Can you okay, for your 40 love, can you just go donate? Like how do you donate?
Or
Yeah, you
or
can go
buy
on our
stuff,
website. Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can go ahead and go on our website. You can donate there. Obviously, you can send by email whatever merch you're looking for. But we have water bottles on sale at the event if you go on our Eventbrite.
They're
and then we're
fire.
making new T-shirts.
Dude, awesome, man. That's great, man. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna check out the website. We'll be sending it to people, and yeah, everybody listening, go check it out. That was Sean Nguyen. Thank you for being here, and we'll catch you guys later.